Hello, good afternoon, welcome. It is the Everton Daily Live Extra chat on a Monday after we haven't won at the weekend this weekend, but we're still unbeaten.
Yeah, still
in the
unbeaten.
last week. We had 3 games in a week,
Yeah.
Jack, and we didn't lose any of them.
No, we've seen worse weeks from Everton, haven't we?
Just a bit.
Put it that way.
Just a bit. We've had worse Mondays.
Yeah, 2 wins and a draw, and only conceded the 1 goal as well.
And did we really concede the goal, Jack?
No.
It was just a spawn-ridden attempt at goal, wasn't it?
So, yeah, things are still on the up. I think we've not lost any ground on the bottom 3 as it stands, I think, to 18th place. Still 5 points off, still averaging a point per game when you look at the games-to-points ratio, and that'd easily be enough to keep us up this season. So, yeah, frustrating the way it ended, but I don't think there's any disaster talk going on, because I think it was overall, like you say, a spawny goal. That usually leaves a bit more credit towards the team, doesn't it? And go, okay, well, normally that wouldn't happen, so we don't need to be too upset.
I on Saturday, I was a bit disappointed. I got accused of being a bit negative, which is just
Positive, Baz.
It's one of the few rare times in my time of doing this that someone's called me negative. I normally get people going, "You're too positive. You need to be more negative."
I think what people mean is at every occasion possible, they want you to say what they're thinking.
At every single time.
Otherwise, you're wrong.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
You should know better, really.
I should. To be fair, I should, really. I shouldn't say what I think. I should just say what people want me to say. No, I was just a bit disappointed then. First of all, I think Brighton were very good. They passed it round nicely, but there was 0 time they looked threatening. Matoma was the biggest threat. Evan Ferguson, who I think's a great player, done nothing all day. And they were decent up to the final third, but it was always going to be through Matoma. But it was when we had the ball. I knew that Brighton would have... I didn't think they'd have 80% possession, I'll be honest, but I thought they'd have 70 at least, because they are very, very good at what they do. But I was just disappointed with us giving the ball away so cheaply when it took a while to get it back. And the second thing, I think the manager should have made his subs. Players were running on empty. The core was destroyed with 10, 15 minutes to go. Jack Harrison was blown through every orifice and couldn't run. Ashley Young looked knackered because Matoma had given him a bit of a torrid time in terms of running up and down. He hadn't got away from him too many times, but he had a couple of runs in the second half where he got to the line and we smuggled it away. So that was only
the threat was there.
We knew what the threat was. And I think you can see it with the goal, is that it's tiredness from Harrison. He gets done with a dummy, but it's not even a difficult one. I'd rather Matoma cross the rim with his right foot than check back, because he's more of a threat running at you to the byline.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all wanted subs at the weekend. The argument was just who would it be? Nathan Patterson seemed like the obvious one to maybe, push Young up the pitch a bit, replace Harrison, and then you can almost double up on Matoma, effectively have 2 right backs on the pitch. Sean Dyche isn't going to change a back 4 with a 1-goal lead. He's just not that type of manager, is he? You can understand the thinking there, although I do think that was the move. The only other really logical substitutions were Danjuma and Beto. I thought, again, I don't think Dyche trusts either of them in that type of game, in that type of setting, with 15, 20 minutes left, defend on a 1-0 lead, not having the ball, because Beto isn't as switched on as Dom.
No.
He doesn't make the same runs. He's just not as aware as the space around him as Dom is. And when you need that out ball to be perfect, you need the run to be perfect as well. And you don't always get that from Beto. The hard work's there, but the mental side of it isn't quite. And then Danjuma just simply doesn't work as hard as McNeil or Harrison either. So again, you can understand that. It's a game where Idrissa Gana Gueye played well, don't get me wrong, but normally with our first team out there, Onana starting thinking, it'd be really helpful if we could bring Gueye off the bench here, have him help us see it out. Obviously, he had to start, so we didn't really have another midfielder on the bench to, maybe change with the core or anything. So it's our lack of squad depth hurting us at the end of the day. I always say I think we have quality squad depth, but we don't have squad depth in numbers. And that's when you need your numbers. That's when you need fresh faces to bring off the bench, especially when you've played midweek as well. And that would be my main criticism of Dyson, probably my one and only criticism, that why play Onana midweek against Burnley if he's carrying a knock? You know, you've got Guay there, bring him in. We know he's good hands. He can come in, a safe pair of hands, and just maintain that level of performance. He's not quite as good as Onana in this day and age, I don't think. But he's more than capable. And then if you're going to have to play him at the weekend anyway, in the bigger game, in the tougher game, rest Onana midweek and then bring him back in for the Brighton game.
I think he must have... As the manager said, he was carrying a knock in the Burnley game.
He said he's been carrying a thigh problem for a while. And then
Didn't he say it was a calf injury?
Yeah, calf. Sorry,
whatever
whatever it was. He said it's been tight for a while. And then after...
Yeah, because he was limping. He was limping the other night against Burnley. I don't know. The manager's made that call, hasn't he? And obviously, I think he said he could have started him, didn't he? He said, but the worry was that he'd have to replace him after 15 minutes. And it was like, well, what's 15, 20 minutes? If it goes, what's the point? And then he might be out for longer. So I understand where he come from. But yeah, listen, we didn't lose 3 games in a week in 6 days. That was just why I felt he probably should have made the subs. But it's one of them, isn't it? Like we said, it took a deflection. That cross wasn't even a shot, a cross that deflected. You know, we had Michalenko's goal, obviously it Duncan went in, but it was on target. At least it was a shot where that was a cross, which we'd have probably cleared had it not ricocheted off Ashley Young and gone in the only place Jordan Pickford couldn't get it. So you'd have to look at that. But I just feel like we're going to have to improve with the ball, and I think the players have to take responsibility of that as well. They're playing in the Premier League, and if they're playing in the Premier League, then you've got to be capable of getting your foot on the ball and moving. They just, what Brighton do really, the coach really well, but they just all move into space. They pass it and then move into space, where we don't. We play a pass and then just watch it, and I think that's the big difference. Or we just smash it up in the air and hope Dom wins it, but then we don't run off Dom enough, because he does win nearly every header, and there's like no one running in behind him, which is a bit mad. But overall, we got 4 points, and I guess it's that thing, isn't it? If you'd have said to me on the morning of the West Ham game, we'll get 4 out the next 6, West Ham away, Brighton at home, I'd have probably gone, go ahead then. I'll have that. And I guess we've got to do that now. We've got Palace away, United at home. United, at the moment, just look like a very average Premier League side, so there's nothing to fear there. Palace away would be difficult, but they're beatable. You know, Burnley played them Saturday. Burnley could have been out of sight against them, and I know Palace end up winning because Burnley got nothing in the final third, but that's what we've got to be looking at.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, a point against Brighton, I think there's a good few teams in the league who go, yeah, you know what, I'd take a point against them because they are just a good, well-coached side, aren't they? I don't even think it's necessarily about the ability of most of the players. It's just how well coached into that system they are. Like you say, always showing for the ball. And that's what we've got to learn to do to a degree as well. It's not about changing our entire ethos. You know, you can keep the defensive style of football, and, you know, being good off the ball as important as being good on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And we should keep all that. Just learn how to take care a little bit more. Have a follow-up plan for when Dom wins that header. You know who's running off him. Dom needs to know where he needs to send that ball if he can. And it's just little tweaks like that. You know, we don't need to be combating Brighton for who has the most possession.
No, it's not.
Last time we did that, we got beat 4-1. And I don't think that's what anyone's actually advocating for, is
no,
it? It's just, let's find another 5% on the ball.
The thing is, that's it, mate. And again, someone had put rather bizarrely in the comments something like, yeah, but if we have a possession manager, everyone will be wanting them out then. I was like, I'm not talking about a possession manager. I'm talking about being better on the ball, going from 20% to like 35%, which is still, in my opinion, quite poor for a home team to have 35% of the ball. I get it. Nottingham Forest yesterday at 28, I think, and won 2-0. Other teams have done it. West Ham beat Chelsea with 24%. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and I'm not saying there will be some games, but when we get the ball, we have to use it better. And again, I totally and utterly refuse this idea that people have been conned into, that these players can't pass the ball. It's the same people saying that, but the same people telling me we couldn't score a goal and this team are relegated no matter what. And I said they'll finish halfway up because they're easily good enough. And now we're proving that. And I'll be proven right on how we play the ball as well. Because you don't fall into this narrative that people put out that it's impossible to pass the football. When you look at Brighton's plays and you go, Pascal Gross, all right. Gilmore, yeah, all right. Lallana, coming to the end. But all of these players wanted the ball. Lewis Dunk, who people used to call a yard dog, is now, like you said before, he knocks the ball around brilliantly, but because he's been coached to do it. And I'm not having a go at Sean Dyche for that. What I'm saying is the players have to take that responsibility when we win it back, because structurally, we were obviously very good because they didn't have any chances. They had a Lewis Dunk free kick. They had nothing clear-cut because we defended brilliantly and we were so well organised. But when we get the ball, we have to be able to use it better. And these players are, in my opinion, passing the buck by not passing the ball. They're kind of going, oh, I don't want it, and just smashing it for Dom. Go ahead, go and do something with it. And the lad's surrounded by 3 men. So that's what I mean. I'm not saying I want us to be an 80% possession team because I was bored out my tits off with Martinez's football. But we have to be better on it and we have to look a little bit more comfortable. I think the manager kind of said this after the game as well.
Yeah, and it just takes a bit more confidence on the ball. That probably is the main thing, isn't it? And a bit more responsibility of the player who's on the ball. So, no, we've got to take care of this because we've just went 10 minutes without this and we've just got it back. Let's take care of it. It doesn't mean fiddle around the back for 5 minutes, not getting up the pitch, but just be a little bit more switched on. It won't change much in terms of possession numbers. It just changes what we do with that. And that's what we did in the first half. We didn't have much of the ball then, but we were very direct with it. There was more confidence on the ball.
But if we'd have took
for it and we got a goal.
If we'd have taken a little bit of care of the ball, though, it would have changed the possession. Because when you win, it's so hard to get it back, and you're playing against a team who loves the ball. The minute you just smash it clear, they've got it again. Yeah. So it's like.
No, I'm saying it's not changing.
No, we're not going to all of a sudden go to 60% of the ball, but it would help, wouldn't it? We're obviously going to do the final word, aren't we? So we're going to look more at that. But there was a story last night. It was Alan Nixon. It was on his podcast, actually. A few people have picked it up, but it was on his podcast saying that 777 may face a rival bid for Everton with an Indian consortium with very wealthy, and certainly one very wealthy businessman on it. I'm very interested in Everton and I'm watching developments, because obviously we had the news on Saturday that the Football Association had passed Josh Wander and Pasco as owners, whatever, but obviously that's not the Premier League and stuff. So what have you made of this? Because it's a weird one, isn't it? Because if they are there and want Everton Football Club, why not stick the head above the parapet now and go, we want it and we'll pay you. I don't know what 777's deal is, but we'll give you a touch more, whatever. And we're here with the money. Whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're seeing this this late in the game. The 777 thing's been going on for a while now, and it's looked, providing they get the relevant approvals, it's looked like a done deal. We've seen Josh Wander at the last few games. We know there was the money from 777 a while back to cover running costs and the likes. The fact it's coming this late on makes me think that maybe this consortium are just want to be seen as interested in Everton. Maybe, it's a negotiation tactic for something else they're going to do in the future. I don't know a lot about the business world, obviously, so this is just speculation on my behalf. But I would have thought that when the bidding war was a bit more open a while ago, they would have shown their interest. Everyone's known we've been up for sale for months.
But was there really a bidding war though, Jack? Because we all thought it was MSP. Excuse me. We all thought it was MSP, didn't we? And then all of a sudden, and then there was talk. Oh, it's a minority, like 20%, whatever it was supposed to be. And then we hoped, or we thought, that they may well take over as it moved forward. And then we had this thing of 777 all of a sudden, buying it's a full takeover.
Yeah, maybe bidding war wasn't the right term.
No, but I wish it was.
Yeah. While the market was a bit more open before 777 was so entrenched in the club, and we've seen them cutting about with it. David Dane. David Dean, that's the one.
From Arsenal.
Yeah, ex-Arsenal vice chair, ex-FA vice chair. The prevailing opinion on social media seems to be that he's somewhat of a Farhad Moshiri ally. He's got good relationships with him, so the fact that he's cutting about with the people who want to take the club from Farhad Moshiri, it's, you know, a clear tactic by them to associate themselves with a known name, has good relationships with the selling party. I think that just shows another step of progression in 777 buying the club, which, you know, the idea of someone else coming and taking a look is intriguing. It becomes interesting as well when you hear the stories about 777, you know, the red flags as they're called, and you think, oh, well, you know, maybe if the lads have a bit less dirt on their hands and, you know, they're coming in with big money as well, maybe that's more ideal. We don't know much about these people. There could easily be stuff that maybe comes out about them that looks unappealing as well, but if it's going to happen, it'll need to happen soon, because it looks like it is going to be 777.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even excuse me, I don't even know what could happen now to scupper this, only if
it's the approval.
That's process. It. If they don't, so the only thing stopping them from taking over, is actually going to be whether or not they get passed by the Premier League. And it doesn't seem to be, I've not seen any anyway, any kind of, how can I put it? There doesn't seem to be
any
indication or any obstacles now that they're not. Listen, people will. We know the Esk does a lot of blogs and stuff, and is far more clued up on this than what I am, and will give opinions. And I've seen him last week hinting that it's unlikely they have got the funds to be able to do this. But I just wonder how's it got this far then if they haven't got the funds. But he will probably know more than I do. So I wonder if that is simply the case. They're just gonna wait and see whether or not it does collapse, and if it does, someone will sweep in, and maybe then you might get a little bit of a bid more, because obviously if it didn't go through, and we know that 777 have put money in to sustain the club in the last few months, then that's another creditor you've got to pay back, isn't it? But then if you're really serious about the whole thing, then you wouldn't be bothered about that, but you'd again, it depends what your end game is. If your end game is to win the Premier League with Everton, then fine. Then you will put money in. You'll say, well, this is going to cost me 2 or 3 billion, and we accept that. So on we go, and we'll pay whatever we have to pay. I don't mean 2 or 3 billion for the club. I just mean by the time you put money in, and by the time you pay the debt off, and by the time you put money into the team and develop things over the next 5 years. It's an interesting one, really.
Yeah, the other issue is if 777 don't come in, what's going to happen with the money Dave gave us so far? Or
someone will have to pay it back, won't they?
Are they going to immediately turn around and recall that? Because there was noise a while back as well that if they do take over the club, MSP, with the money they've loaned to the club as well, aren't going to want an outstanding bill with them, and it'll immediately recall that as well. The Esk could tell you a lot more about this than I could, but I get the impression when it comes to buying a football club and getting the approval that you have the finances to do it, it's less about actually having the finances and more just about convincing people that you do.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what the relevant processes are for that, but we've seen in other sports as well, people who don't have the money have been able to come in and convince people they do. It wouldn't be the first time it's happened in sport.
No, not at all. So it's definitely I guess it's a watch this space, but until you see someone actually coming out and saying, this, you know, we really want this football club and we're prepared to whatever, and we want to return it to where we feel it should be, and all of that, then this is just a link, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it's another rumour for the time being, like I say, especially with the timing of it as well. I think if they really wanted to buy Everton, they would have stood a much greater chance if they'd come to the table 2 months ago.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's you know, the Indian businessman who's supposedly involved is Mukesh Ambani, who was worth 20 billion or something, or whatever it is.
Sounds all right.
But he's in with, it says chairman, well, the Reliance Industries, who he's part of, are worth $90 billion. So, therefore, that's not too bad, is it? But I don't know. I mean, Ped, is there anything in this, in your opinion, that we should be reading, or is this simply, do you think, just Alan Nixon trying to grab some? You are our financial expert, of course.
My due diligence.
Yeah, you know,
I can confirm.
Yeah.
No, how do I?
No, what I meant. No, sorry.
No,
in your
I'll tell you
opinion, what do you
say,
think?
I would say, I could imagine there are people out there with money who want to invest in a Premier League team, who also might be waiting to see what happens with the commission and where we are generally as a football club come the time of making a decision. And they might be interested. The reason why they mightn't have put their heads above the parapet yet is they've waited maybe for somebody else to do all the hard work for them in a way. And maybe they'll come in at the last minute and get themselves a bargain of a football club, because by the time, if this falls through, I imagine Mashiri will want to walk away. Want to walk away with a little bit in his pocket. And yet, why not? Why not an Indian businessman? I mean, there's a lot of wealth. There's a lot of wealth for certain people, of course, in the subcontinent, and there are people who are looking to expand their portfolios, and having a Premier League football club, as we know, is a huge asset, and a huge also sense. There's a sense of pride of owning something like that. You can definitely walk in the men's room and say, put it all out there, can't you? If you own a Premier League football club, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was people waiting, and maybe this is just a name that's emerged. I don't know where it's emerged from. God knows where Alan Nixon's got it from.
These things do bounce around, though, don't they? And people kind of dismiss them sometimes. Because Richie Keys has said that, hasn't he?
I wouldn't dismiss anything, because the thing with the world right now is obviously there's people with a lot of wealth, like dirty wealth, isn't it? Like, and I know that comes at the price of a lot of people, but what do you do with that money? You see a lot of people. You see people getting into. Why would you get into like space? Do you know what I mean? Like, why would the Premier League football club, and certainly one like Everton, which has got a history and obviously has got a stadium getting built as well. They can be. I can imagine lots of people just going, no, but we can get this for the bottom price, like really, really low.
With a brand
new
new stadium
with it, and actually, in terms of Premier League, all those noises have gone away. We've put a little bit of money in. We could do something with this. So it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if there's 3 or 4 out there. But this is probably going to have to run its course, and we're probably going to have our emotions pulled around a little bit. Let's get it right. This 7-7 thing again today.
There's the more stuff today.
I mean, just reading that article from Josimar.
Yeah.
Reading that and seeing apparently the final £600 million losses, and it's not good reading. It's not, and even the David Dean stuff, I don't find that very interesting either. He's an 80-year-old man who's been out of football for 15 years.
That to me,
I don't find that very
interesting. He was Bill Kenwright and Farhad Mashiri's mate. So for me, I think he's just acting on Farhad's behalf. He's literally just
the middleman.
But I don't think it's anything to be excited about. Though. No. I've seen people go, "Oh, David Dean's involved." He was involved in football 15 years ago.
If it was 15 years, even if it was when Mashiri come in, if he'd have took Everton for 18 months and gone, this is what I think you should do. That's 7-8 years ago. But now it's moved on again. I mean, look at it. Look at the difference in when Mashiri took over to the difference now. It's moved on that fast. When Farhad took over, FFP hadn't really, in the Premier League, really settled properly. You were still in a little bit of a grey zone.
That's what he said himself. He said there's a small window before this.
I generally think the guy from the guy from Man City who's involved in 777 is a
Oh,
lot more
Transfield.
interesting. Yeah, he's a lot more interesting than David Dean.
No, he is,
He's
yeah.
been part of a multi-club system, and we're seeing how that's working now with Girona being top of the league in La Liga, because it's not even about players, it's about sharing the expertise between your football clubs. That's a lot more interesting to me than David Dean getting involved. A guy who happened to be the chairman of Arsenal, or chief executive, whatever you want to call it, during obviously the Arsene Wenger years. It'd be like going back to like when Sir Alex Ferguson was winning trophies at Man United and plucking their CEO or their, do you know what I mean? It's
Getting
like
David Gillen.
Players as well.
yeah, Paul Ince. We're getting Paul Ince. Things move on in football very, very quickly, and you need to have the people who are on the ground right now, or the next ones who. That's who I'd be impressed with. I'm not impressed with this.
Yeah. Is he being brought in to be involved though, or do they just want to be seen with him? And
They want his expertise. They want his expertise. If you read the piece, they had them into their offices in Florida, and there was this idea that almost like, if you read the piece, of like almost like the top of his field, but that's not the way I look at it. I might be massively wrong, but I think football, I think you have to be at the sharp end of the stick. I think you have to be there doing all the modern things rather than relying on someone who did it 15 years ago. Of course you can take expertise, of course you can. But let's remember, this is the guy who wanted Machiri and Usmanov to take over at Arsenal as well. So, that's one of the reasons why he's not at Arsenal.
Yeah, not a great track record, is it? I think just looping back to the Indian consortium, right now we don't really know how deep they are in this, where we stand with it. I think it'd be good for the football club if they were genuinely interested in getting involved, because it would at least offer another option. Right now, 777's main green flag is that they're the only ones. No one else really seems to want us up, hasn't been spoken about in that much detail, and they're obviously the front runners. But if we could have someone else come to the front, would have something to compare to, not just financially, but in terms of business practice as well. Do they have the same sort of negative press associated with them that 777 do? If not, it's a point to the consortium, isn't it? It'd be, the more heads that are involved and are interested is good, because it means we have more pick and we're not just going with someone because they're the only one.
No, you're right. It's one that, like Pets just said, we're just going to have to let play out, aren't we? If these are really serious,
then come in for the chat.
Yeah. Well, if they're really, really serious, it'll develop, won't it? They'll make more noise, and but if 777 are that far down the road, you see, my worry is with this, and again, I don't know whether this is accurate or inaccurate. I'm just saying it from bits you've read. There's all the reported losses for their organisation. So that's a worry immediately, because we're a football club that needs money.
We can't afford.
We can't be doing
losses.
that. And the other thing is, have they really got the funds that is needed? So if you're the Premier League and you're looking at trying to grant these people permission, if for want of a better word, to take over one of your stakeholders, which is what they are, the one of the shareholders, aren't they? Everton, the 20 clubs that are there. If you're allowing them to take over there, you have to be certain that these people have got the money for a start, because otherwise the whole administration thing, and it's you let them in, we'll go after the Premier League. We can't see it, will we? As fans, we don't get a balance sheet to go, look, lads and girls and everything else, there is all our money, and we're going to put that into, we've got enough money to buy your football club, to run it properly, to employ who we need, to spend money on players, whatever. No one's going to come out and do that to the fans. I understand that, I get it. But we have to trust that the Premier League are given some kind of insurances that it is all there, and that they can develop the football club, and they can keep the club going, and they have got, because if
the money, the losses, if you read the article, they're just borrowing. They're borrowing heavily. That's where the money's.
So how do they, like in your opinion, and I know you've read more of this than me, to be fair, how in that case then can they demonstrate, you think, to the Premier League that they have got all the money to do what is needed to run a modern day Premier League football club?
I don't think they can. I don't.
So therefore, if you were the and I know I know it doesn't work like this, but if you were the Premier League and like Jack's 777, and I keep giving stories out there about how bad Jack is at paying, or how much he owes, or has he done things correctly, surely someone at the Premier League, whoever it is, are kind of going, this isn't good, is it?
They probably are. But the latest article is this holding companies and different people are buying different things, and the money just seems to be getting passed from one place to another, and they're getting loans in from a large hedge fund that gets money from deals with insurance companies, and it's very complicated. Like, it's way above my pay grade. But
I was asking you as a fan.
But certainly they can they demonstrate then that financial. Can they demonstrate it? That's now maybe they can if they produce.
I wonder how it's
one
done.
Set of figures. I just think if you've got what they've clearly done is they've gone big, they've gone early, they've bought a lot of football clubs, they're using debt, and maybe one day they think this portfolio is going to pay off,
and it might do.
And it's a risk, but surely, if you're one of the football clubs, you're at risk if it doesn't come off. You're the collateral damage if it doesn't come off, and that's the problem. Because they own you, can they then just decide to go, well, we own you, so actually we're taking some of your money away from you to pay our debts, which is essentially what Manchester United do in a way. We
don't make enough.
We own
for
you.
that.
We've got debts. You pay the debts. And that's a very dangerous position to be in. Surely
it is for us.
And straight away, if that's what we're learning now, before they've even bought us, then surely that should be enough for someone to say this doesn't add up. Now, whether they've got the bottle to say that,
but
I don't know.
They've got to, haven't they? If that's the case, though, they've got to protect the football.
Of course, but it's that thing of like, legally, what do they need to produce and what don't they have to produce?
What criteria?
Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
like
that's the problem, isn't it? It's like, you're asking for a set of books from them. Well, what if their books don't have any of this information and all the information? Because one of the clubs apparently is not even owned by them. It's owned by their sister company called 600. And they're like basically like bottom between themselves and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And actually the clubs are being bought by an acquisition company and all these kind of things. And this is where it becomes very complicated. And people like the Esk and John Blaine will know a lot more than we will, because it becomes this thing of like, you get entrenched then in the business world, and how are we as normal people just telling us about football supposed to understand this football? I'm sure there are people out there, by the way, who do understand this football. I don't want to dumb down any of our audience.
No.
But certainly,
we're just saying we don't.
We're not trying to put it out.
The thing about it is, it's not even that we don't understand it, or I don't understand it. I don't understand the criteria that's needed. That's the big thing, isn't it? It's like you could know all the information, and these could come around and go, yeah, but actually none of that really matters, because that's none of that's in the small print. It's can you demonstrate you have the money? And they go, yeah, mate, here's my bank records here. But what you're not seeing is where that money comes from.
I want to know. I'm watching Payback at the moment, which is actually quite good, ITV drama. But in that, how about shell companies and our money is just like being put into these things, and it's not real and stuff like that, and you're like, Oh, it's steady. This stuff. You would hope it was.
Seems to be really, really easy if you've already got money. And we see that every day in day, without being political. We see that day in, day out, don't we? About people who seem to have lots of money. People just throw money at them. Oh, take this money, go and invest it.
Oh, well, that's fine if they've got access. And listen, 777 might be able to bat all this away comfortably, and I've got all the money. I'm not saying they haven't. I'm just saying when the stories keep rolling,
what we're being told is different.
What are the Premier League like? At what stage did the Premier League go?
It's not the Premier League, really, is it? It's the other one, isn't it? The actual financial services one.
The FCA, is it?
That's the test they have to really pass. They're the ones who really, really look into it.
Well, they should look, shouldn't they, then, and go. And listen, if they do, then all we can do, I suppose, is get behind it, because we don't know, do we?
Yeah, It's very complicated,
Yeah.
like you say.
Yeah.
But I just know, and look, they might be squeaky clean. What we're being told at the moment is different to that, and we're not hearing from them. Just going off what we know. In their statement, they said their way of running clubs is lowering costs but increasing value. Now, I know they're early into this project, but 600 million losses doesn't
sound
work
good,
with
does
that.
it?
Those
No.
are two very different things. What 600 million losses implies is invest heavily early on to improve infrastructure and value, and it'll pay off in the long run. What they said was, like the club's going to make a profit, it's going to be self-sustainable, we're going to, players might go for big money, but we'll replace them with same quality for less. So the statement and the actual practice so far are very different, and that's slightly worrying.
We'll have to see. LPG on the super chat, thank you very much, mate. Says, afternoon, boys, City fan here, but I've got huge respect for Everton, unlike your neighbours across the park. Hope any takeover works out well for you. Cheers, mate.
Ask the Sheik if he's got a mate.
Yeah, see if the Sheik's got a mate for us. It's the whole thing we want is we just want a plan, don't we? We just want to know that these people are attempting to try to put Everton back, challenging to get into the Champions League. You know, you're at first then aiming for the Champions League, and one day aiming to try and win the Premier League. Might never get there, but trying to do
just
that.
Be on an upwards
put an
trajectory.
upward there and trying to get after trophies and stuff, which is what football's all about. You might never win it. There's 3 cups to win in this country every year. And people invest a lot of money, don't get anywhere near it. But you have to have the hope. And we need someone who... Farhad Moshiri, for me, was a fella who wanted to, or him and his mate, wanted to invest the money. Profit and sustainability didn't allow them to do it in the way they wanted to, but they done it in a way that, to me, was nonsense. There was no plan. It was just keep throwing money and hope that it stuck. We need someone who's got the money, but also has got an idea how to do it. Like Newcastle have obviously clearly got the money, but they've also got a plan, and they're sticking to it, and they're very, very competitive now. And okay, they might not get top 4 this year, but they're already in the Champions League, and they just beat City, United and Arsenal in the last few games, so they're very, very competitive. So that's what we want. We want that kind of thing of going, we will invest, we'll build the team up, and we'll have to piece it together.
We've got this 5-year plan, and
it can happen.
Yeah,
you can get there, but it does take hard work. You need to be lucky, as in everything needs to go your way almost. But we need that hope. And we might not get there, but we need the hope that we're trying to get there. I don't want to be taken over in the hope that we just stay up. And some people, I think, have gone to that point now. They just want to be in the Premier League. Well, why? If Everton is 17th every year, is that all you want then, to be crap, but as long as you're in the Premier League? Because I think a lot of us have forgot what we go to football for, what football was about. Football is trying to win. Whether you're good enough or not, you try to build to get better. And I want owners who want Everton to try to win the league. They might not get there, but you're aiming for that. And you're doing it, going, right, we've got a plan, like, what do we need? Right, we're going to get that. We're going to get this player. We're going to try and make a profit and reinvest it back into the club. And I think our fans, the way they are, would be all over that and buy that.
Especially
Stadium looks unbelievable right now.
Yeah.
Someone to carry it through.
I think we just want to enjoy supporting Everton, don't we? And
without all this.
Yeah, we just want to be able to win games and have hope that things might get even better, and yet win the odd trophy and just be competitive. We're not asking for the world. We're asking for what every football fan wants at the end of the day. Because, like you say, that's why we are football fans. You support your team in the hope that they'll win things.
That's it.
Or at least win games.
For me, there's no point just. And I wouldn't tell anyone how to do it, but through my lens, and that's all I can ever look through, my own lens, is go the match with, like, take Zach the match. See, just season ticket older, whatever. I want him to have a bit of hope, and I want to go and sit in Goodison and then in Everton's new stadium and see us going after teams and going, you know what, we can do something this year. We might never get to win in the league. It might just not happen because the richer clubs are getting wealthier and wealthier, but there's always teams who buck the trend because they do things better than others. But to get to that place where you do things better than others, you have to have somebody with a vision. You have to have someone who's got the money, not the 500 billion that Newcastle have allegedly got, or whatever.
It doesn't need to be that.
It doesn't need that. It needs someone with a plan. someone who can try to develop your commercial thing, but someone who pieces it together. Us as a fan base are ready to explode and get behind it. We're already behind it. We've had nothing. We've had nothing for years, and yet what we need now is we need the financial institution, whoever it is, at the FCA, I think it might be, who give approval. And we need the Premier League to go through everything stringently with these people and go, we need clear evidence you've got access to this money to help this football club because you need this to keep it running and blah, 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 blah. Because that's all we can really do. We can't do anything. It's on Farhad Moshiri. He owns the thing. If he decides to sell to you, there's nothing I can do about it. Whatever. Do you know what I mean? That's all we can. We can hope for. Because we need hope, Jack. That's all we need.
And we need the relevant parties to go out.
Eddie Grant said it. Eddie Grant asked Joanna to give him hope. And I'm asking whoever takes Everton over to give me hope.
Yeah, Josh Wander, give us hope. Or whoever it ends up being.
And Barney, give us hope. Whoever it is.
We just need the relevant parties to go over this to the finest detail they're capable of, because like Ped said, the money trail is complicated and there's a lot of turns down that road, and it doesn't seem to be established right now where the money's actually coming from. So we need that figured out. We need to get a conclusive answer on, do these people have the money?
Yeah, that's all we need, isn't it? That's all we need.
And if not, find someone else.
You find someone else. Sorry, let's click these. Gary says hello. Tom Newton says, I don't see much longevity in our current style of play personally. 20% possession is embarrassing really, and just hoofing long balls up all game. Even Luton yesterday strung more passes together than we do. Some people like it, but each to their own. Yeah, I think it's... I just said the other day, this can't be a long-term thing. We have to be able to develop. Right now, we're trying to get results, and we're trying to get a level, I think, of result-wise, as playing well, getting stuck in. Playing well, I mean, sticking to the plan, working out. But we do have to improve with the ball, Tom, definitely. Jez D says, doesn't this just smack of here comes a random bogeyman you don't know about? Not sure I'm convinced this isn't a strategy to get 777 over the line, to be honest. Mainly because I think all people involved are untrustworthy. But then again, I'm a cynical arlash. Who knows what it is, mate? Georgie says Twitter in meltdown. I think we're a step in the right direction. James Kendall says, I've been having a debate with my dad since the game on Saturday. He's fuming at the performance, whereas I'm all right with it. I think we missed Onana in the midfield, which forced us to play long. But I think overall the style is still there to see. My dad is fuming about our lack of possession and playing defensively, but I think it's just how we're going to aim to go forward for the rest of the season. And that's fine by me as long as we're picking up points. I listened to both your match reactions, and it seems your opinions mirror our own. Just wondering if you were annoyed or worried about how one-dimensional our play was against Brighton, and do you think it was due to Onana being out the side?
I think missing Onana certainly didn't help, but I always think we were going to be around that sort of level of possession anyway, because that's how we've played this season, and we're comfortable in that style now. And then this is the best on the ball team we've played since we've got comfortable in this defensive setup. So it was always going to be around that number. How much better we were with that possession, Onana could have made a difference, but I think it does come back to the style of play at the end of the day.
Yeah, like I said before, I just think we've got to be better than just kicking the ball anyway. When you work so hard to get the ball back against a good side, why are you just smashing it back to them to try to defend again? That was the bit that annoyed me. But I thought defensively and structurally we were very good.
I didn't really have a problem with it because I just could see what we were trying to do was similar to what we tried to do at their place last year. But we just didn't, and it worked in the first half. I just think in the second half we'd run out of legs, and that comes down to the subs, which is a different conversation altogether. The manager got the subs completely wrong. Should have taken Harrison off. Harrison was terrible on Saturday.
He was knackered as well.
Ashley Young should have gone to right midfield, and Patterson should have gone to right back. I'm not a genius for suggesting that. A lot of people know that's what should have happened, but he didn't. He tried to cling on again, and it come back to cost him. We couldn't get up the pitch. We just couldn't, because again, you're asking people to do so much hard work, and I think without keeping the ball for long periods as well. Because the thing about the 20% possession is, this is where I slightly disagree with you, is the thing about 20% possession is partly that's because of our fault, though, because we give it back to them so many times.
So that's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying that's because, but people should be better in possession, and they weren't. And maybe if we had that Onana, to Jack's point, then we would have kept the ball because he keeps it simple and keeps it, gives it and gets it back. But with Garner in the team, you're not going to get that. So I think Onana was a massive loss. But players have got to keep the ball better. They've got to, and you've got to like create situations. And again, without digging Harrison out and say, please don't start saying he's my new victim, but he gave the ball away far too many times cheaply, but indecisive. But also, as I keep on saying, and I think a lot of people will say this, if you haven't got a fullback going past you, it makes your job ridiculously hard as a winger.
Well, look at them.
Their fullbacks were so high in the second half because they knew they could, and that's where Dyche, with 20 minutes to go, bottled it and got it completely wrong. And that's not me going, oh God, I hate Dyche. He got it wrong. Everyone with two eyes could see that. He should have made a sub. The lads were knackered. You could tell who'd played midweek and who hadn't. The players were knackered. He didn't have to play. He didn't have a centre midfielder to bring on either. But that right back was so obvious because Matoma was the threat.
It's the only
threat all game. The other side was boxed off. We had the centre of the park boxed off, and it was always going to come from their left-hand side, and he got it completely wrong. And that's where he's got to start trusting players. And we said this last season, if you've got a team that are absolutely knackered and also mentally shot as well, never mind physically, players will run all day. They're like dogs in the park. But the mental toughness and the mental sharpness will go, and that's where you start giving the silly passes away and stuff like that. So, possession, I think, is just one of those things, but that comes from not being on the front foot a little bit more in saying in those wide areas.
No, I'm not throwing it all on Sean Dyche. Far from it. No. I'm just saying I said this, but the players have got to take responsibility. You get the ball, you're a Premier League footballer. The manager said this after the game, or said it to Andy Gray, if whoever it was. The Premier League footballers, and they're there for a reason. They're the good footballers, so take the ball and move to Brighton. I was watching what they did. There was nothing complicated. They passed it and moved into space and got it back and then moved into space. When Everton got it, we just panicked and just knocked it long instead of putting the foot on it and just knocking it back. Keep it for a little bit. Let them press you. Keep it for a little bit and then try to turn it. But Harrison did have a poor game.
Yeah, it's not a case of, we need to have more possession and therefore that'll make us better. It's by being better, we'll have more possession and then therefore they'll have less. Because some managers get that distinction wrong. They go, the more the ball we have, the better we'll be. Yeah. Whereas it's not about doing that. It's if we're a bit better on the ball, we'll have a bit more of it and then they'll have a bit less.
I'm not saying, like I said before, I'm not saying we need to be getting 60% possession and dominating it, because I don't believe that's the case either. That's what you do with it. Doesn't matter if you've got all the ball. I mean, Brighton done nothing with it on Saturday. There can't be a Brighton fan who genuinely could go, we 100% deserve to win. Because they had all of the ball.
Brighton's accounted, said least we deserved. And then
there you go. Well, there you go. But they all, when I like Brighton, I love De Zerbi, think he's great. I like Brighton, think what they've done is incredible. But there was no threat from them. Now, okay. If I'm looking at it from their perspective and we've had all the ball, I might be thinking, well, we deserved at least a draw. But don't think they could make a case they deserved to win, because they had nothing. They had a Lewis Dunk free kick and that was it. So for them to have 80% and not do anything with it, you have to ask questions, or you praise Everton. So you've got to praise Everton that there was no space for them to do anything. So Sean Dyche's got that absolutely right. But he has got to look at players who are on their arse. And when you just keep kicking the ball back, and the team starts again, you know what's coming. You keep kicking it back and they just come again. The players, you can't do that for... And we started retreating from about 35th minute. We started getting further and further back and they just had the ball. And at some stage, you need the outball.
Yeah, and regardless of how well structured you are defensively, which we were, by the way, the more opportunities you give the opposition to just fly back down at you, the more room you leave for bad luck to affect you.
Exactly.
And that's what happens.
That's it, yeah. David says, morning, gents. Firstly, 4 points from 6. I'd have taken that. I would have taken that. And concerning 777, honestly, don't know what to think anymore. I was so excited when Mashiri came back. but the management of the club almost finished us. At this point, I feel like getting the right people into the club is more important than the investment, even though I know we must have new funding. Yeah, we need people who are going to run it properly. Brian says we should have started with Patterson and had Young available from the bench later in the game, giving us the options of where to use him. Yeah, but even if he's... I mean, I'd have started Patterson all day long, but even if he's gone with Young...
Still bring
Patterson on, and then even if you want to keep Ashley Young on because you think we need his experience, take Harrison off, put Young in front of him and say, listen, to Ashley Young, you could have said there near the end to Ashley Young, just follow Matoma wherever he goes, just stick on Matoma because really he's the only threat they've got.
No, especially in the last 15-20 minutes of a game as well, where you can effectively just double up on a player because he's their danger man. He's the one they're playing for every time. And then you know what happens? We win the ball back more often.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
got a bit more of it.
Cal says, I understand and agree in most concerns about Dyche's playing style and his inability to make subs. A criticism a couple of Burnley mates of mine also warned me about prior to him coming to us. But it's really a nice change not to worry about being relegated. A mediocre season and a cup run would be much welcome relief after the last 2 years. But I still don't understand the Young over Patterson decision, just solely for recovery pace. Does that make up for his rashness and inferior decision making? No.
No, he trusts him now, doesn't he?
Stan says, on one hand, it's a good point, but it's also 2 points dropped due to the lack of fresh legs when they could see they were knackered. They knew we were tired and made changes accordingly. If he doesn't trust the bench now, then we are done in, I'm paraphrasing, for the rest of the season. Dyche fit is bollocks. There's not a chance we can go through the season not making subs for tactical reasons, tired players or injuries. He's getting a tune, sort of, out of 11, but it's a squad game now. Dyche seems to be one for now, but he's not one to get us moving forward. He's just got to trust, hasn't he? He's got to just go...
When the opposition can change half of their outfield team, that's where a manager has to start in his corner.
You look at that bench at the weekend, right? Okay, and this is where it's thin. We haven't got a centre midfield player, right? We didn't have one because Onana was injured. Andre Gomez, I know people go, Gomez is never the answer. I'm not saying he is, but he's a midfield player, and at least the worst, he puts his foot on the ball, doesn't he? He name-checked Dele. I thought that was dead interesting after the game. He's talking about Dele and how he means about getting the ball forward and all that. So I imagine Dele is in his plans, right? But we didn't have him either. So what could he do in the centre of the park? I didn't think James Garner had a particularly good game at the weekend, but I thought Idrissa Gana Gueye had an excellent game. But they were tired near the end. So I get him not taking the Corey off. He was breathing through his arse. And Dan Juma probably... You can't rely on him to run back. But Patterson for Harrison, even if he'd have left Ashley Young then and gone to Patterson, right? Just go and stand on Matoma for 10, 15 minutes, mate. Where he goes, you go.
I didn't think Ashley Young had a bad game.
No,
I thought he looked after Matoma quite well.
He was just looking tired.
He was tired, and he
got done twice before the goal.
What I didn't understand about it was he made that sub on Wednesday night. He made the Patterson to right back.
And
that's why Ashley Young scored.
Yeah.
When we were 2-up.
And I just thought that was the most sensible thing in the world. I don't think it's like reinventing the wheel.
No,
I just thought it was
he knows that.
He said Harrison's not fit. And fair enough, if he's not, he's not. He's playing him, and there isn't much else out there. But I just think that's a dead sensible... Like, the goal itself, and I know we'll do it more later, but the goal itself, the gap between Ashley Young and Harrison is far too big. They should be both on him. And if it's Patterson would actually be doing what Harrison's doing there and actually running with them and not letting them team. And then Young comes over to him
closes
him down a lot closer. And that to me is just
if you watch it again, Harrison... is like the ball switched and you see him having to
he's
turn.
Like, oh no.
And he runs out and then it's the turn and it's Matoma, if you watch him enough, he generally goes back onto his other foot. It was obvious. Now, okay, the cross is not a good one and they're very fortunate, of course, but for me, I would have just made that change. Jonathan says everyone open this Indian group, Shambani, but it's more likely we get the Venki type. Cal says, from a 777 point of view, I really want to know what a long-term plan looks like for the remarketing the team, remaking the team. History means very little to newer markets, Middle East, USA, China, and this can be proven by the success of newly successful teams like Chelsea and City. So how do we differ from clubs and gain long-term marketable success? I always tend to agree with Baz when he mentions the missed opportunity of James signing and ability to really exploit the Colombian market. Not a euphemism. I mean, Ped says it as well, Cal. No, it is. You need new people, in my opinion, and brave people.
I don't disagree with what he's saying. I actually don't think Everton get the Everton market.
No.
I don't think that when you talk about exploiting new markets, I don't think Everton exploit the market they've already got. I think there's thousands and thousands to almost maybe 1 million Everton fans in the world. If you were successfully promoting yourself to those fans, you'd be making more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need people who understand modern marketing as well, don't you? Not how it worked in the 90s or the 2000s, because that's something that's always changing. You know, there's always new marketing techniques. There's always a new place to market yourself on as well, or a new market to exploit, and that's why you need fresh faces who understand that.
When I was in Paris, I was in the shop, and they've obviously got a Korean player, but like they properly market. Like the shop was like, so it was Mbappe, and then it was him. And obviously that's the market they're going after. You know, you look how important Son is to Spurs in that market. Like, I'm not saying we go and buy a Korean player, but the point being is, straight off the bat, they're like, who's the most marketable player we've got? And I'm not, again, it's two different things.
Worlds, yeah.
But that's the point, isn't it? You're marketing to your fan base and then saying what attracts you to come and. We very rarely do that. Have done that, going back to the James Rodriguez situation. We very rarely get a player and go, we're going to throw this player everywhere. And we're going to make. We've said it for ages about making Dominic Calvert-Lewin the face of Everton Football Club, making him. You know, this is a guy who you know, he's in all kinds of exterior football, marketing. And yet we, as a football club, don't exploit that same player because we're so scared. We're so scared to put anyone on the front in case someone says something or he might leave or whatever it is. It's like, well, if he leaves, he leaves. You just take him off the banner and put, like,
the next one.
Get
that one on. James says, don't forget 8 of these lads have played 3 games in 6 days it was. Defo had side legs, so we should have made subs. And Pat says, Dyche said to Gray, he wants them not to just hoof it. Turn and get it up the field doesn't mean hoof it in panic. Also, Pickford needed to pass it out from the back at least a little bit. Not all the time, but bombing it up to Dom is one-dimensional. Yep, and Pat also says, why did this draw against Brighton suddenly bring Everton Dars out the woodwork? We get a decent result against the top 6 side and the sky is falling in and it's Dyche out. We've been crap for nearly 3 years and the first sign of sustained stability is where it starts to kick off. I think it's the Everton lids who are the problem. The Everton Dars. Yeah, there's this thing that like, oh, it's the Everton Dars. The worst fans have been the lids who moan. They're the moaners.
I think
that's exactly what an Everton Dar would say.
Yeah. Well, exactly, yeah. I don't see Everton that. I just think we should keep the football.
Yeah. Everton Dar's more a state of mind than an age group, though. Yeah. You can be a 15-year-old Everton Dar. Yeah.
I don't know, Jack. I haven't got a clue.
It's a way of life.
Yeah, it's a way of life. Everyone should do it. Right,
there's
I'm
a
going.
Chat there. No,
there's that. Oh, sorry. Before we go. There's it gone and gone. Here it is. Ken Sprayer, FTM on the super chat. Thank you. Says, this is an identical analysis of I put on Facebook and I was assassinated for the negativity. Well done, Ped, Baz and Jack. Don't want 777. They're not suitable. Well, they've got to prove it, haven't they? Let's see what happens. Right, we're going to do More Than a Game. The link will be on here. Go over, subscribe to More Than a Game as well. We're going to be talking all the other Premier League games in about 10 minutes, and then we're doing the final word. So see you all in a minute. Hit the like button on your way else. Bye. Get the